So, guys, I'm here with the Lantern Carrier, and he's going to read a couple pieces, and then we're going to discuss after each piece the motivations behind it or the meaning behind it. So, welcome, Lantern Carrier. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Cool.
Pleased to be here.
So, did you want to read a piece first, and then kind of get into what the piece?
I can read a couple of pieces. They're like sonnets, a minute each, roughly.
Okay.
And I'll start with a piece called Love Touched Me. Love touched me. It was so powerful, my breath became suspended. My heart shed blissful tears. I had not previously bathed in this sweetness, and I was taken aback. In my drunken haze, I tried to comprehend its music, mesmerizing the alcove of my being. Alas, it was to no avail, for a compelling delight silenced the intellect and calmed my soul. I saw myself, emanating rhythms from the majesty of the sun. A pulsating light took hold of my darkness, smashing it into a trillion fragments. I became merged in a cluster of twinkling stars. I swooned in reverie, as if inebriated with wine, intoxicated by the splendor of my eternal home. And that's poem 1, and I'll read poem 2. I wish I could sing like starlings, dart within the foliage of lush green leaves, display the eloquence of nightingales, awaking the flowers with magical words. I wish I could resonate like music, me floating on chords, whispering to the heart, I love you. Then I will dance with illustrious moonbeams, laugh with the shooting stars of heaven. I wish to disperse like clouds of dawn, revealing the splendor of the radiant sun, soaring like the immortal phoenix, to bask in the joys of perennial freedom. I wish I could flirt like the hummingbird, adorned in a tapestry of effulgent light, kissing the cheeks of morning glories, transmitting the light with vivacity. I wish for the smile and the breath of silence, offering praises to the glories of love.
Thank you. So I noticed you read 2 sonnets there. Is there a reason why you gravitated to writing sonnets at that time?
Yes, initially I was trained. English has been my best subject at school, but even when I met my spiritual teacher, I noticed quite quickly that he had a way of summarizing, what could easily be 5,000 words in simple sentences. It's the tradition of the seers. They do it in what we call sutras or aphorism, 3 lines or 4 lines, a bit like haiku in a sense, really, or Zen. And so I learned quite quickly how to take a lot and try to condense it in 14 lines. So I do free verse sonnets, and I also do formal structured sonnets like Shakespeare or Spencer or Petrarchan.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Obviously, I've noticed that the type of language you use is very romantic, harkens back to like the romantic poets.
Yes. I studied the poets. I was writing poetry at 4 years old, and I grew up with Shakespeare, Keats, Wordsworth, Shelley, Byron, and a few Americans, Edgar Allan Poe, and Longfellow, and much more.
There's a lot of reference and imagery to nature, light, wildlife, like birds. Is there any particular reason you gravitate like to birds?
Imagery is one of my strengths. I give talks on what I call the art of poetry, and I use but 11 words, and I explain them all in great detail, and nature is the first on my list. But it's not just saying nature, because when I say nature, I think of moon, sun, horizon, sunset, rainbows, butterflies, flowers. Flowers appear constantly in my writing. They help my images, and they are very vivid and colorful, and they present a picture to humans. So I like drawing pictures, so it helps people to see what I'm trying to do or to say, and at the same time, by virtue of the fact that I'm a lantern carrier, carrier of light, I try to bring the rays of the sun and the rays of light in whatever I do in my work.
Beautiful. I actually wanted to ask about your your name and how you came about it. Did you use another name before this?
I did. No one has asked me that before. I was known as the Bard of Solace for many, many years because I think of what I do as bringing solace to people. And so many people have come to me and say, oh, Lantern Carriere, your poetry was so meaningful, but it's so rich, we had to close our eyes. I had to close my eyes to take it in, and it was so beautiful. So I think of solace, comfort, and silence and stillness and calmness, tranquility. But one day, after I'd been the Bard of Solace for about 10 years, the host came to me and she says, you know, that poem you did was so beautiful, but I didn't feel any solace in it. And the poem was called The Sad Face of War. I don't usually do this kind of poems, as you probably have realized, but I did a poem called The Sad Face of War. I was talking about the battlefield, and everything was happening on the battlefield. And she said, and I went home and I thought about it. I said, you know, although there may not be solace in it, there is light in it. Light is that which illumines, that which elevates, that which inspires, that which transforms. That's how we see it from a mystical standpoint. Light is bringing in prudence and wisdom to humans, and my poem was full of light. So I tried to find another title to reflect the fact that I was bringing light, and I came up with the Lantern Carriere.
That's beautiful. I'm aware of time as well, but I think we have enough time for maybe one more poem, and we can maybe have one or two questions about that too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I once sealed my memory to the wounds of afflictions and desires. Now you have kindled a flame of fire in my soul, so I could shine like the morning star. When my world seemed lost, my capacity to soar was stultified. You came like a breeze above the clouds, dispelling my mistiness of shadows. There was a cold chill, an endless darkness in your absence. Now my heart awakes to the glories of shooting stars. Even as the fish enjoys the breath of the ocean, make me your udder to savor the milk of heaven's sweetness. Let my heart's lotus open like the flower to the dawn, for I wish to be a lover with you as my rose. Let me say that the greater volume of my poem, particularly those related to love, are actually addressed to the Most High. I never tell people because I like them to feel that there's a bit of romance, and they talk about romance, and they get a lot of it from that way. But from my standpoint, I'm addressing the divine. It's not a human kind of love.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's another question which intrigues me because, like you said, you write a lot of poetry. People assume it's love poetry, but
Yes.
it's to the divine.
Yes.
And why do you think people tend to gravitate to the assumption that it's love rather than anything else, other than, you know, the adoration of the divine?
That is a very deep question. It's the core of life, really, because mystically, I see myself as a soul. And mystically, I see all beings as soul. In fact, not only humans, trees, rocks, everything has a soul. And within me, I feel despair, fear, insecurity, remorse, guilt, greed, lust. Everything is within me. When those things are within me, I naturally feel that they're within all beings. It's just, the difference between you and I is simply a question of degree. Life is a ladder with different rungs, and humans are on different rungs of the spiritual ladder. So you come with a unique task which you have to do, could be interview, could be music. I come with a different task, could be poetry, could be nursing, could be medical. But ultimately, all these we call them cardinal vices, which I've just been explaining to you. I feel that every soul, it exists within every soul to a greater or to a lesser extent. So I bring them in my work so that they resonate in others.
I'm also kind of in admiration and inspired by the amount of poetry events you go to, and
Yes.
you frequent quite a few.
Yes.
Since coming to poetry events or going to poetry events in London, it's going to be World Poetry Day next week. What is your kind of hope for when you go to these events? Is it to just share, or is it to receive something from someone else?
My main purpose is in sharing, But one of the laws of the spiritual life is giving and receiving. It took me a long time to learn to receive because by nature I'm a giver. I've traveled all over the world giving. But I've come to realize that when you give, you also receive. You and I affect the world by the vibrations that we offer to the world. If I'm walking the street and a child turn around, look at me and give me a beautiful, innocent smile, I receive something from that child. When I smile back, she receives. So life is a process of give. It's a bit like money. Money is always going out, but money is always coming back. You know? We wish it would stay here, but it goes away and it comes back. And the law of life is like that. It's giving and receiving. So we plant seeds and it brings us beautiful flowers. And we get charm and self-giving and sacrifice from the rose. We get fragrance, aroma, and redolence from the lavenders and the jasmines. But they also get something from us. And we take them and we offer them to our paramours, to our lovers. The whole of life is giving and receiving.
That's beautiful.
So I do the poetry. Predominantly, I'm thinking of service. Once it goes into the ether, it's like energy. All things are energy. I don't even necessarily need to think of the human sitting in front of me. The moment even now speaking, everything, the physicist already knows that life is energy. So an energy goes out and it resonates in a particular heart if this heart or soul is resonating on the same wavelength. And in fact, resonate in all, but some receive it differently. If you ask somebody what was Manatita's poem like, he would give you one version. If you ask another person over there, they will give you a different version because souls are different. But we complement each other like a flower garden or like instruments in an orchestra. Life functions infinitely more beautiful when there is harmony in whatever is happening.
Yeah, I agree in that sense that there has to be movement and flow, withdraw and...
Yes. Natalie talks a lot about flow, as you know, but to us, mystic is very natural for us. Everything is like a river in motion. Everything is like a river in motion. Evolution itself is motion. And to take it further, I am taught that even God is in motion. I grew up in Christianity where I always thought of a man with long flowing beard waiting up there somewhere in the sky to judge me. But as I develop in my spiritual life, I came to realize that everything is, and we see it in the material world. You know, so many hundreds of years ago, Orville and Wilbur Wright was just trying to fly an airplane which kept falling to the ground. Today we're going to Mars or wherever we're going. So life itself, from a material standpoint, science and AI and technologies and what we're doing now, we couldn't have done that 100 years ago. So in the outer life, there is movement. In the inner life, there's the same. The microcosm is part and parcel of the macrocosm. To us, mystics, everything is one. Everything is flowing. It's a constant flow of either what we call the manifestation, that which you can see, or that which you cannot see. And the invisible is also there. The form and the formless are together. The Buddhists have a nice, they call it the Golden Sutra. Form is form, emptiness is emptiness. And then they take it a step higher. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form.
Thank you so much, Lanson Carriere. Let them know where they can find you.
I am on Facebook and Instagram as Manatita44, Manatita with the numbers 44, Manatita44 on Facebook, Instagram.